My girlfriend, 24, and I, 25, graduated from the same college. I landed an engineering job in the manufacturing sector after I graduated. A year later, she graduated, but it took almost a year for her to find a job. During those times, she moved into my apartment and was living rent-free. I was also paying for her and my student loans as well. Sounds stupid now, but back then, I thought she was going to be the future mother of my children, and we spoke about getting married all the time. It made sense to me. We had been dating for 2 years, and we had already introduced our families to each other, and we alternated between families to visit during the holidays. Her dad and I were close. While she was unemployed, she was online all day, from when I left for work till I came back home. She refused to cook or clean, and I had to come home to cook for both of us because I thought she was suffering from depression. We spoke about it, and she claimed to be working on starting an e-commerce business, drop shipping to be specific. I had no reasons to doubt her and gave her space to find herself. Then after a while, she told me that she had finally landed a job in the medical industry. The job is 80% remotely, and she loved it because it allowed her to work from home. A week after she landed the job, she went on a 2-day work trip. I should have seen that as a red flag, but I was too excited that she would finally take over paying off her student loan. Right after she found a job, COVID hit. The manufacturing plant that I was working at shut down for 3 consecutive months. Then they began to lay people off. First, the new hire, and then me. I was worried about how I was going to pay rent because I had no emergency savings. Since I have been working, all my money went to paying both of our student loans. During the pandemic, my girlfriend was spending more hours on her laptop and traveling more often for work, even when the airlines were only allowing essential workers to travel. So, I assumed that she was an essential worker. I noticed that she was making more, and during that time, she bought a car without credit. I remember having the difficult conversation on how she should take over the majority of the bills because my unemployment check wasn't enough to cover the rent and my loans. They say that you don't really know who your partner is till you go through some adversity together. Losing my job exposed me to who she truly is. She reluctantly agreed to pay the rent after living off me for more than a year since she moved in with me. After she started paying rent, I noticed her attitude changed. She didn't say it to my face, but went behind my back to her family and complained about how I was lazy and was eating off her. She started arguing more about money, and she would go on a tangent about how I wasn't contributing enough, even though I was constantly searching for jobs and the manufacturing industries are still on lockdown. I reminded her that not too long ago, she was in the same position that I was when she graduated, and she would dismiss it. Minor things would set her off, and we constantly argued. I had to be the bigger person and diffuse the situation, always. That was when I knew she wasn't a reliable partner, and her attitude threw me for a loop. I felt the relationship dynamic changed right before my eyes, now that she became the primary breadwinner. What was weird to me was back in college, we lived together and we splitted the bills with no issues. I was paying the rent, utilities, groceries, and her student loan when she was unemployed, and even buy her gift out of the blue to cheer her up, and she would call me the perfect boyfriend. Now that the shoes is on the other foot, she treated me with disdain, unlike anything I've ever experienced since the beginning of our relationship. I didn't understand what I did to deserve such treatment. She even went as far as calling me a deadbeat behind my back. My once loving girlfriend became a nightmare to be around. I saw her true colors during those challenging times. During the lockdown, she got irritated because she thought I was home too much, and she felt like I was smothering her. I spoke to my friends about it. They said that many couples were going through a lot of breakups during COVID because they realized that they couldn't stand each other when they are locked in the same house or apartment for 24 hours. I thought mine wasn't any different. I would intentionally leave the house to go for a run or jog so I could avoid her, and that helped my physical and mental health since my home has turned into a hostile environment that I didn't want to be in, and I was considering breaking up with her. Luckily, her job allowed her to travel, so she was traveling at least twice every 2 weeks, and sometimes would be gone for 3 days, which allowed some breathing room for me, away from the constant fighting and arguing. I really thought our relationship wasn't going to make it past COVID. If not for the constant workout, I would have fallen into a spiral of depression. I felt as though she wanted to break up with me, but it wasn't so easy because her family liked me. So she tried to destroy my reputation by telling them that I was leeching off of her and that I was lazy and how I was a terrible boyfriend that never supported her. Her dad didn't believe her, so he came to me to understand my side of the story. He convinced us to remain together, reminding her how supportive I was to her when she was unemployed. And he vouched for me as a good person. Looking back, breaking up back then would have been the best thing to ever happen to me, but we reconciled. She soon stopped trying to sabotage our relationship. Additionally, after the lockdown restriction loosened up, I was lucky to secure a better job than I had before. But after the lockdown, it was hard for me to trust and rely on her, and I ruled out getting married to her. By mid-2021, our relationship was getting back to normal. She was working from home and traveling for work. So one day, I was at work when a former classmate that I haven't spoken with in a long time texted me a picture of a girl on a cam show. The girl was performing actual acts on herself. The cam girl was wearing a domino mask to obscure her identity. She was wearing absolutely nothing but the domino mask that covered her eyes. The only stain on her pale skin was the undeniable cleavage tattoo, which was identical to my girlfriend's tattoo. At first glance, I was confused. She had the same body type as my girlfriend. I stared at the picture for a minute, and it took me a while to understand why the former classmate sent me the picture. But I still wasn't sure if it was fake. Maybe he was trying to show me that he found a girl online that looked similar to my girlfriend. I started to panic when I looked closely at the background and realized that it was my bedroom, the bedroom that I shared with my girlfriend. I immediately gave the former classmate a call. This classmate and I weren't close, and I haven't spoken to him in months. We knew each other because we worked on the same senior design project in my senior year in college. Back then, we would have a meeting at the school library, and my girlfriend would come to study with us. That was where he met my girlfriend. I didn't think it was a prank because I can clearly see that it was my girlfriend attempting to conceal her identity with a domino mask. And there was too much I could see for it to be a coincidence. I recognized the tattoo, her pale skin, her body type, and the background of our bedroom. He answered as soon as I called him, and he told me everything. He told me that the name of the campsite was Camster, and he has an account there where he follows a couple of girls. He said that he unknowingly came across my girlfriend there a few months ago and didn't recognize her because of the mask, and he had a feeling that he knew her. At first, he didn't realize that she was my girlfriend, but the more he watched her, the more he recognized her. Then one day, she told her fans where she grew up, and that was the dead giveaway. He couldn't call me about it because he wasn't sure whether I was in on it. Till one day, when she was doing a show, and a fan asked her if she had a boyfriend, and she said yes, and then went on to say that her boyfriend didn't know that she's a cam girl on a campsite. That was the clue he needed. So he reached out to me to let me know what my girlfriend was doing behind my back. After he told me this story, which made sense, I was still in denial. I couldn't get myself to accept it. I thought she was working from home in the medical industry. Finding out that she was a cam girl was a hard pill to swallow. What about the frequent work trip? Was that part of a cover to convince me that she had a real job? I had so many questions that needed answers. My former classmate sent me all the information on how I could find her on Camster. So I created a fake account and was shocked to find out she was live streaming at that moment. I can assure you that she wasn't baking cookies on Camster. She was using all kinds of toys to pleasure herself, while strangers were watching and sending her tips. Some of the toys she was using were the ones I bought for her. To see her use it on herself, while hundreds of men watched her, made me puke in my mouth. That all but confirmed that the medical job was a clever ploy to convince everyone that she had a real job. I was overwhelmed with emotions and couldn't think straight. I left work early and rushed back home to catch her in the act, but I stopped at the apartment parking lot because I was overwhelmed with emotions. I stayed in my car for hours thinking about what I should do. What bothered me the most was the extra steps she took to hide her deceit. She took pictures of the places she traveled to, so she truly traveled. Now, some of the questions I had was who she traveled to meet. Then it dawned on me that maybe she's traveling to see some of the men she met on Camster. Well, there was only one way to find out. When she went to bed that night, I tried to gain access to the laptop she was using to do her camp show, but I didn't know her password. I was trying to look through her conversation with the men she was chatting with online. After several failed tries to access, I gave up. I then decided to check her phone. I unlocked her iPhone by her facial recognition while she slept. I was horrified to find evidence that my girlfriend has been using herself for money. Random men on Camster would pay her to fly or drive out of town. Then they would wine and dine her, then end up having excess with her for money, while lying to me and her family that she traveled for work. I collected evidence from the conversations on her phone to show to her father and siblings what she has been up to. A friend that I spoke with about this told me to send the link of her Camster so her family could catch her on the act. But I didn't think any father should see their daughter like that. The following day, I came home early while she was streaming live on Camster to catch her red-handed. I won't forget the look on her face when she realized that I was recording her when I entered the room. To make matters worse, when I tried to get her to explain, she started lying that she was doing it for fun. Then her story changed to something so ridiculous when I confronted her with the text communication with the men, showing that she had been traveling to have excess with men for money. She claimed that she was being blackmailed by an organized crime syndicate and that she was the victim. Of course, I wasn't buying any of her excuses, and I told her to pack her things and leave my apartment, since her name wasn't on the lease. Then her story changed when she started blaming me by saying that she wouldn't have gone on Camster if I hadn't lost my job, even though she started Camster while I was working and paying the rent and providing for her. Then she admitted that she had a job but was doing Camster on the side because it was more profitable. Then when I asked for any evidence to show that she had a real job in a medical institution, and guess what? She couldn't provide anything because she had never had a job before. I spoke to my former classmate again to thank him for saving me from a train wreck, and he told me that the reason why she started Camster was because she was making more than she would have ever made if she was working at a real job. But she never had a real job. Interesting how she shared everything about herself with complete strangers online, and I had to learn it from a guy that I barely knew. She thought that because she was wearing a domino mask, people wouldn't recognize her. I went straight to her father and showed her all the evidence I collected, except for the explicit ones. I wouldn't want to give the old man a heart attack. I knew that if I didn't get to her father first, she would lie to her family and blame me as the bad guy. So that was why it was important to me to beat her to it. Why do I care? I have been so close to her family over the years. They are good people, so it is important that they hear it from me. Her dad didn't try to reconcile our relationship this time because he knew it was gone beyond repair. Her family were on my side and they almost disowned her. More information came out that she never got a job after she graduated. She confirmed what I already knew and had been showing off her body online and traveling to different cities to have access with men for money. The last time I checked, she was no longer on Camster, but I wouldn't be surprised if she moved to another campsite. I didn't realize that there were so many of them. After all, that's the only job she's ever had since she graduated. Moreover, it's just a matter of time before she runs out of money, since I already kicked her out of our apartment. Her family refused to allow her to move in with them, and I don't think she would want to either. As far as I know, she's probably still selling herself. I don't care anymore. I'm just happy that she's out of my life for good. Thank you for staying to the end of this video. Please share your opinion on the comment section and don't forget to like and subscribe.